Thomas Jefferson was a founding father of the United States, best known as the principal author of the Declaration of Independence and later as the nation's third president. Born on April 13, 1743, in Shadwell, Virginia, Jefferson entered the world as part of a wealthy planter family, which shaped much of his early life and prospects. His upbringing was steeped in the traditions of Virginia's landed gentry, a class that held considerable influence in colonial society. From a young age, Jefferson was exposed to the privileges and responsibilities that came with such a status, including the ownership of extensive land and enslaved people, a fact that would later complicate his legacy. He grew up on the family estate where the rhythms of plantation life intertwined with the intellectual currents that would come to define his personal and political philosophy. Jefferson's education began at home, where he was taught the classics, including Latin, Greek, and French, languages that were considered essential for a gentleman and scholar in the 18th century. This classical education was designed not only to prepare him for a career but also to cultivate a broad understanding of the world, reflecting the Enlightenment ideals that were gaining ground in Europe and the American colonies. Jefferson's intellectual curiosity was evident early on, and he was known to be an avid reader with a particular interest in philosophy, science, and architecture. His pursuit of knowledge was not limited to books. He was fascinated by the natural world and sought to understand it through empirical observation and reason. At the age of 16, Jefferson enrolled at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, an institution that provided him with a more formal education and exposed him to influential thinkers and political ideas. The college was a hub for Enlightenment thought in the colonies, and Jefferson absorbed the lessons of philosophers such as John Locke, whose concepts of natural rights and government by consent would heavily influence Jefferson's own political philosophy. During his time at William and Mary, Jefferson studied law, a profession that promised both prestige and a platform from which to engage in public affairs. By his early 20s, Jefferson had completed his legal training and was admitted to the Virginia bar, ready to embark on a career that would blend law, politics, and intellectual inquiry. Inheriting his family's estates after the death of his father, Jefferson found himself responsible not only for managing large tracts of land but also for the hundreds of enslaved people who labored there. This aspect of his life was inseparable from the social and economic fabric of Virginia at the time. Jefferson's relationship with slavery was complex and contradictory. While he expressed philosophical opposition to the institution and included language condemning slavery in early drafts of the Declaration of Independence, he never freed more than a handful of his own slaves during his lifetime. His ownership of slaves was a stark contrast to his public advocacy for liberty and equality and remains one of the most debated aspects of his legacy. The realities of plantation life and the economy of the South were deeply ingrained in Jefferson's world, influencing both his personal circumstances and political decisions. Beyond his legal and political ambitions, Jefferson was deeply engaged in the arts and sciences. He was an accomplished architect, designing his own home, Monticello, which embodied his ideals of symmetry, classical beauty, and harmony with nature. Monticello was more than a residence, it was a reflection of Jefferson's intellectual pursuits and his desire to apply reason and innovation to everyday life. His interest in architecture was part of a broader Enlightenment ideal that valued progress and the improvement of society through knowledge. Jefferson also pursued scientific studies, particularly in areas such as agriculture, paleontology, and meteorology. His extensive library, which eventually formed the basis of the Library of Congress collection, was a testament to his lifelong dedication to learning and to spreading knowledge. Jefferson's early life and education set the foundation for his later political career and his role in the founding of the United States. The classical education he received, combined with his exposure to Enlightenment ideas and his practical experience as a planter and lawyer, shaped his vision of a republic grounded in individual rights, limited government, and the rule of law. His upbringing in Virginia, a colony that was at the heart of revolutionary thought and action, placed him at the center of the emerging movement for American independence. The contradictions of his personal life, especially regarding slavery, mirrored the tensions within the new nation itself, which sought to balance ideals of freedom with entrenched social and economic realities. As Jefferson moved from his early years into public life, the influences of his upbringing and education remained evident. His belief in reason, education, and the power of ideas would guide his contributions to American political thought and governance. Yet, the complexities of his personal circumstances, including his status as a slave owner and planter, foreshadowed the challenges that would define his legacy. Understanding Jefferson's early life is essential to grasping the man who would go on to articulate the principles of American liberty and democracy, even as he lived within a society marked by profound inequalities. This formative period offers insight into the contradictions and aspirations that shaped both Jefferson himself and the nation he helped to found. Jefferson's entry into public life began with his service in the Virginia House of Burgesses, where he quickly established himself as a vocal advocate for colonial rights and self-government. In this colonial legislature, Jefferson worked alongside other emerging leaders who shared a growing dissatisfaction with British policies, particularly those that imposed taxes and restricted the autonomy of the colonies. His time in the House of Burgesses was marked by a commitment to the principles of liberty and limited government, ideas that had been nurtured during his education and early experiences. Jefferson's speeches and writings from this period reveal his belief that government should derive its authority from the consent of the governed and that individuals possessed inherent rights that no ruler could justly violate. One of Jefferson's most significant early political accomplishments was the drafting of the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom in 1777, which was enacted in 1786. This statute was a landmark in the separation of church and state, asserting that no person should be compelled to support any religious worship or ministry and that religious beliefs were a matter of individual conscience. The statute reflected Jefferson's deep commitment to religious liberty, an ideal that was revolutionary in a time when many colonies and states maintained established churches supported by public taxes. Jefferson believed that freedom of religion was essential to a free society and that government should neither favor nor interfere with religious practice. This principle would later be enshrined in the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Jefferson's role on the national stage became most prominent with his appointment as the primary author of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Tasked with articulating the colony's reasons for seeking independence from Britain, Jefferson crafted a document that eloquently expressed the ideals of liberty, equality, and the right of people to overthrow oppressive governments. The Declaration laid out a vision of government grounded in natural rights, famously declaring that all men are created equal and endowed with unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Jefferson's words not only justified the revolution but also set a philosophical foundation for the new nation. The Declaration's emphasis on individual rights and popular sovereignty would resonate through American political thought and inspire movements for freedom worldwide. During the Revolutionary War, Jefferson served as governor of Virginia from 1779 to 1781, a period marked by military threats and internal challenges. As governor, he faced the daunting task of managing wartime logistics, defending the colony against British incursions, and maintaining civil order. His tenure was complicated by tensions between civil authority and military commanders, as well as the economic difficulties caused by the war. Jefferson's leadership during this time reflected his dedication to the revolutionary cause, though it was also marked by criticism from political opponents who questioned his decisions and effectiveness. Nevertheless, his service as governor placed him at the heart of the struggle for American independence and deepened his experience in governance during crisis. Following his governorship, Jefferson represented Virginia in the Continental Congress, participating in the debates and decisions that shaped the emerging United States. His time in Congress allowed him to engage with other revolutionary leaders on issues ranging from military strategy to diplomacy and governance. Jefferson's diplomatic skills were further tested when he was appointed minister to France in 1785, a critical role given France's importance as an ally during the war and its influence in European politics. In Paris, Jefferson worked to strengthen the Franco-American alliance, negotiate trade agreements, and promote American interests abroad. His experience in France exposed him to European Enlightenment ideas and the complexities of international diplomacy, broadening his perspective on government and society. One of Jefferson's most notable achievements during his diplomatic career was his involvement in the Louisiana Purchase in 1803. Although this event occurred after his time in France, his earlier diplomatic experience and vision for the United States influenced the decision to acquire the vast territory from France. The Louisiana Purchase doubled the size of the young nation, opening vast lands for settlement and expansion. Jefferson saw this acquisition as essential to fulfilling America's agrarian ideal, providing land for independent farmers who would form the backbone of the Republic. the purchase also demonstrated Jefferson's pragmatic approach to governance, willing to embrace constitutional flexibility to achieve national goals, despite earlier reservations about executive power. Throughout these years, Jefferson's political philosophy remained centered on the ideals of limited government, individual rights, and republicanism. He believed that the strength of the United States lay in its commitment to these principles and that the government's role should be to protect the freedoms of its citizens without imposing unnecessary restrictions. Jefferson's advocacy for religious freedom, his authorship of the Declaration of Independence, and his diplomatic efforts all reflected this vision. At the same time, his experiences exposed him to the practical challenges of leadership during revolution and nation-building, shaping his approach to policy and governance in the years to come. Jefferson's contributions during the Revolutionary period and early national era were instrumental in defining the character and direction of the United States. His work in Virginia's legislature, his authorship of foundational documents, and his diplomatic service illustrated his commitment to creating a nation based on liberty and justice. Yet, these accomplishments were also entwined with the contradictions of the time, including the persistence of slavery and debates over the balance of power between federal and state governments. Jefferson's political career during this period set the stage for his later roles in the federal government, where he would continue to influence the young republic's trajectory and grapple with the complexities inherent in translating revolutionary ideals into lasting institutions. Thomas Jefferson was elected the third President of the United States, serving 2 terms from 1801 to 1809, a period that would define much of his political legacy and shape the early republic's direction. His presidency was marked by a commitment to policies that reflected his vision of limited government, agrarianism, and westward expansion. Jefferson believed that the strength and virtue of the nation depended on independent farmers who owned their land and were free from the influence of concentrated wealth or centralized authority. This agrarian ideal guided many of his decisions as president and underscored his efforts to promote the growth and development of the country's western territories. One of the most significant achievements of Jefferson's presidency was the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, which doubled the size of the United States overnight. This acquisition from France opened vast new lands for settlement and economic opportunity, fulfilling Jefferson's vision of an expanding agrarian republic. Despite his earlier strict interpretation of the Constitution, which made him wary of executive overreach, Jefferson embraced the purchase as a practical necessity for the nation's future. The Louisiana Purchase not only secured control of the Mississippi River and the port of New Orleans but also laid the groundwork for the United States to become a continental power. Jefferson's willingness to adapt his principles in this instance demonstrated his pragmatism and foresight. Jefferson also supported the Lewis and Clark expedition, commissioning Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to explore the western territories acquired through the Louisiana Purchase and beyond. This expedition, which began in 1804, was crucial for mapping the vast lands, establishing American claims, and seeking routes to the Pacific Ocean. The journey reflected Jefferson's deep interest in science, geography, and the natural world, as well as his desire to expand American knowledge and influence. The expedition's success provided valuable information about the western frontier and native peoples, further encouraging settlement and westward migration, which Jefferson believed were essential to the Republic's prosperity. Throughout his presidency, Jefferson promoted policies aimed at reducing the size and scope of the federal government, consistent with his belief in limited government. He sought to cut government spending, reduce the national debt, and eliminate internal taxes, relying instead on customs duties and land sales for revenue. Jefferson's administration also worked to scale back the military, reflecting his hope that the United States could maintain its security through diplomacy and a citizen militia rather than a large standing army. These measures were part of Jefferson's broader effort to protect individual liberties by preventing government overreach and preserving states' rights, principles that continued to influence American political debates. Jefferson's dedication to education was another hallmark of his vision for the nation. After his presidency, he founded the University of Virginia, an institution designed to cultivate an educated citizenry capable of self-government and public service. Jefferson believed that a republic could only endure if its people were informed and engaged, and he saw education as a vital means to achieve this goal. The University of Virginia embodied Jefferson's Enlightenment ideals, emphasizing the sciences and modern languages alongside classical studies. It was also notable for its innovative design and governance, reflecting Jefferson's architectural skills and progressive educational philosophy. Jefferson died on July 4, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, a coincidence that underscored his profound connection to the founding of the nation. He passed away on the same day as John Adams, another key figure in American independence, symbolizing the end of an era of revolutionary leaders who had shaped the United States' early trajectory. Jefferson's death marked the close of a life that had been deeply intertwined with the birth and development of the American Republic, a life characterized by intellectual achievement, political innovation, and complex contradictions. Despite the enduring admiration for Jefferson's contributions to American liberty and democracy, his legacy remains complex. He championed ideals of freedom and equality, yet he was a lifelong slave owner who struggled with the moral and political implications of slavery. This contradiction reflects the broader tensions within the United States during its founding period, as the new nation grappled with reconciling its principles with entrenched social realities. Jefferson's life and career embody this duality, illustrating both the promise and the challenges of the American experiment. As a statesman, Jefferson's influence extended beyond his presidency through his writings, policies, and the institutions he helped establish. His vision of a republic grounded in individual rights, limited government, and an agrarian economy shaped American political discourse for generations. Jefferson's emphasis on education, scientific inquiry, and westward expansion also left a lasting imprint on the nation's cultural and geographic landscape. While debates about his legacy continue, Jefferson remains a towering figure in American history, whose ideas and actions helped define the United States during its formative years. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.